Okay, this topic is really very relevant to youths. So, if you want to delve right into the topic and come up with the 3 points, usually there's no issue. So, people who take the stand that they disagree with this topic, right, and say that youths spend a lot of time in the present and they don't really think much about the future, will argue, these 3 points. Okay, first they would say that, oh, youths nowadays live by this acronym called YOLO. You only live once, right? So they want to try novel things and live their life to the fullest. Okay, lots of evidence for that abound. Next, of course, we have a lot of talk about youth wanting instant gratification nowadays. And this is manifested in the addiction to phones, especially to social media. For example, you see people on TikTok browsing through the TikTok videos, and these videos are all less than a minute, right? About 60 seconds. And if you don't like them, you quickly swipe them away, and the next video comes up. Okay, so they immerse themselves in the present, don't really think about the future. And of course, the last point is that youths are rather pampered nowadays by their parents, even by the government, because youths are very well provided for nowadays due to doting parents. And therefore they can and indulge right in their hobbies and their interests and whatever they want to do, so they are very much living in the present moment. Okay, but as you know, I don't really like to argue one side, and I would like to take the 1 plus 2 approach. Okay, so if you take the 1 plus 2 approach, you will see that this topic allows me to split it up into two parts, so I can actually agree that youths spend a lot of time thinking about the future. But I can also disagree that they do not forget about the past. In the introduction, we have the three elements, which are the hook, the link to thesis, as well as the thesis. Okay, so in the hook, I will start off by saying something about use, because that's what the topic is about. And I will use a trend in this case, okay, because this topic really requires you to talk about certain trends. So in Singapore especially, much resources have been devoted to the youth to equip them with the necessary skills, knowledge, and mindset to tackle future challenges. Indeed, our young are the future, and they must be prepared to take on the leadership roles in time to come. So the thesis is that youths do spend time and effort to prepare for the future, but they also take time to enjoy the present. Okay, so now I'm going to explain the first part of the thesis, which is why I say that you spend a lot of time preparing for the future. Okay, so the first reason is that one's future is the topmost concern on the mind of youth. This is a summary of the whole paragraph, which is trying to tell us that there's a lot of academic stress, and the youth definitely spend a lot of their time on their academics and studies. This is to prepare them for the future, right? Okay, so to explain, I say that parents understand that a lavish lifestyle is often the result of clinching a job that offers a lucrative pay package, which is correlated to one's grades in school. Hence, parents channel much effort and resources into preparing their child for the future, primarily through education. From a young age, children are sent for tuition classes and enrichment classes. Well, secondly, they are also encouraged to source for ways to build their portfolio. In fact, you spend a lot of time training for competitions. some people take on multiple internships and in the process hope to develop marketable skills. So not only are the parents doing their part, teens are also doing their part, and of course schools also will play a significant role by equipping students with the necessary skills and knowledge pertinent in their future careers. The ECG program guides students in identifying their strengths and interests, allowing them to explore their dream jobs. So you can see that youth spend a large part of their lives being preoccupied with preparing for their future. Now we move on to the second reason. Just now we were talking about youth as in probably children and teenagers, but now we're going to move on to youths that are a little bit older. They're still considered youths, but they're probably working adults, right? Young working adults. Okay, so the second reason is that our competitive society cultivates a workaholic mindset. Even after one has graduated from school, the competition doesn't cease. For those who enter the workforce and yearn to climb the corporate ladder and clinch a coveted position, they have to compete with ambitious peers. Hence, they push themselves to work faster, smarter, and harder in order to make good progress towards his individual goals. And you do see this not only in Singapore, right? But you see this around the world. So our counterparts are also driving themselves hard to prove their worth. And in China in particular, where competition from promotions is fierce, the 996 culture is very prevalent. Yeah, the 996 culture refers to them working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. And it's a very punishing schedule, isn't it? So youths are still prepared to put up with this lifestyle as they hope to impress their bosses, which allow them to inch closer to their goals in the distant future. So as working adults, they are also preparing themselves for their future. I provide a third reason because this issue is rather relatable to youth, and there are a number of contemporary issues that we cover in class, right? For example, this issue of environmental threats and how they force youth to act. Okay, so the third reason is that looming environmental threats force youth to reconsider their actions that impact the planet adversely. To explain this, I say that youths are often bombarded by the deluge of news on social media about extreme weather conditions and the devastating effects on the environment. So I'm sure you have heard of forest fires in Australia, massive floods in parts of Europe, how the ice cap is melting and the sea levels are rising, right? Okay, so this causes the planet to face threats from climate change. As a result, this has galvanized the youth to act, and the most famous one is Greta Thunberg, who held the school strike for climate, where she led many youths, to skip classes so that they hold protests against these environmental issues, hoping that the world leaders, will do something about it. Youth also try to use biodegradable items, minimizing the use of plastic. For some youths who are really very concerned about the planet, they even change their diets and eat plant-based food, which is more sustainable, than the meat. Okay, so it's evident that young people think about the future impact of their actions in their quest to save our planet. Now we come to the second part of the thesis, where if you remember, I mentioned that youths are preoccupied with the future, right? But at the same time, in the present current situation, they also try to find fulfillment or happiness. Okay, so to explain this, I say while youths are preoccupied with the future, they also prioritize their current state of happiness. I'm sure a lot of you know this YOLO mindset, right? It underscores their belief that they should seize the opportunity to do things that are enjoyable or exciting, as they only live once. So they also enjoy themselves by indulging in entertainment on tech platforms, right? Because I see so many youths always scrolling through the TikTok feeds and the YouTube videos. I also know of many altruistic youths, um, especially in SGI, right, who find fulfillment through their contributions to society by helping the underprivileged, through their many projects um, in the VIA program. Yeah. In the conclusion, we link the conclusion back to the introduction, where we talk about the present or the future and end up with some final thoughts, right? Okay, so I have this axiom: time waits for no man. An axiom is a principle that often is true. Okay, so this axiom, time waits for no man, reinforces the message that irregardless of the present or future, time is still valuable. Therefore, youths place equal emphasis on both the present and future, enabling them to live well throughout their lives.